Welcome back to the Telosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time ever in all of EV podcast history, 66% of the podcast are Tesla owners now. Congratulations, everybody. We've made progress. We've improved.
Execute. Oda.
I'd like to thank my mom.
66.
I would like to thank my wife.
I'd like to thank
thank Randy. This is the first podcast I've ever been on with Randy, if we're not counting the time that he was on for like a little bit and then ditched us.
Now
Are
it's
you
just
throwing
you
shade
guys.
At me? Now it's just us. For our visual non-impaired, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're wondering why I'm holding this mic like a weather forecaster outside, it's because I am not at home based anything. I'm a nomad.
Is there a home base?
The Model 3.
Model 3 is home base.
Model 3
That
is home
thing's
base.
gotten a lot of mileage this week.
Yeah, you've been hauling with that thing. Holy crap.
I have been hauling, and I come bearing stories. But I figured before we talk about all the Model 3 stuff, we can cover any news that happened this week, and we'll save the trip for the back end.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well,
Okay.
what's the furthest distance you've driven with your Model Y, Mike?
Probably L.A.
Wow.
Nice.
That's not much compared to where Randy's gone now.
No, Randy's gone, I think, more than 4,000 miles.
Jeez.
No, not.
No.
Whoa.
It's close.
You should plan it. You should record your miles on this
Show
trip.
you the country, San Diego to Virginia.
I think this weather forecasting format is getting to his head.
That's right, Mike. We're live in this hotel. That's like an apartment hotel. Come
Or
to
he's
report
doing
to you that
karaoke with the mic.
Oh, there was a lot of singing going on in that car, especially during the night hours to stay awake.
Well,
Wow.
you picked the absolute worst times to visit GigaTexas because you went in between Cybertruck being there. We now know
you've seen it.
they went to New York. You could have seen it again, though, with dirt on it this time. It went
Yeah.
Oh
went
my
to
goodness,
Texas.
dirt.
Then it jumped to New York. Thank you, by the way, for Jeff Roberts and whoever it is from Tesla owners of Austin, Texas, for actually locating the trailer they moved the Cybertruck in. Someone
that was
actually someone actually spotted the trailer and it was empty, and I was like, okay, cool. Mark that license plate. Let's throw an air tag in that thing, and let's just keep track wherever this ends up. At
I know
Peter
I picked
Dog,
the absolute
15.
worst time, and I was looking at the dirt road to see if I can see the tracks when I got there, and then I was very promptly soaked. I was very promptly soaked with one of the trucks that sprays water on the
Oh,
dirt
really?
to pat it down. I was like,
Uh-huh.
People thought. I think I could. Well, I'm gonna talk about it now because it doesn't. You can't touch me, people. Not in Texas anymore. You can't find me, and I don't think you got my license plate number, so suck it. People thought I was a high exec.
Really?
Yeah.
How do they think such a thing? Just because you have a rap? He must be the
Because-
CEO or something.
Actually, funny enough, separate from GigaTexas, somebody along the cross country screamed Elon at me because my windows are tinted so they couldn't see in. Elon! And I was like, raps exist, my guy.
I don't think, I don't
I'm
think
not the only one
Elon
with a
even
rap.
owns a Model 3 or ever has.
I know these people were like to the moon, and they're just yelling things at a gas station. And I was
Maybe
like, I'm
they
at a
think-
gas station.
Maybe these people who think that you're an exec or something like that
So
are hinting at like the Master Chief Petty Officer color that your 3 rocks.
well, there's a few factors. Definitely the rap was one. Where I was at, where I was able to get onto, there were no signs of anything remotely to besides the building Tesla, or maybe even the badges. There was no signs of any Teslas. there were no signs of anything clean. Everything was dusty and dirty, and then here comes this polished matte thing. I didn't know you could polish matte, but I polished matte. And when I pulled up, people, and because I don't have a front plate, people, yeah, I'm so hesitant because I don't know how. I'm glad we have a small little podcast. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going back, so they're gonna change the procedures because of me. People were waving me through without any verification.
Security.
And, yeah. It wasn't until, funny enough, it wasn't until the very back end of something when I got on my car to take a picture of all the flags and the mud painted T and all that. I got yelled at because then they realized that, hey, wait a minute, because here comes this, snot-nosed kid-looking thing, not Elon Musk or a high executive in a suit. I was in flip-flops and jeans, and I was like, hey, come on, it's Silicon Valley. Who knows? Yeah, but when I got out, and then Brittany got out of the car, they were like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Hey, hey. And I was just like, I'm already here. But the whole time I got there, the whole time while I was there, I was like getting as close to the perimeter as possible. And they have layers of fences to the factory. So I'm just trying to get close. And then this was, if my timeline's right, this was before I would have known it was in New York. Right? Or
probably.
Did it already make it? It made its appearance in New York by then. I was looking just in case because I told Brains like, I think maybe the Cybertruck's still here. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but I think it's still here. Let's go find out. So I'm getting close to the crates and stuff. I'm getting close to the cars. I get past a lot of people, and all these people are contractors and stuff that are just working on either doing the road or they're actually working on the factory itself. So I get past all. They just let me through because I was. The secrets of life, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually a life lesson. Life lessons with Randy. If you act like you belong there and you just move with a purpose like you belong there, you ain't going to get stopped. So I didn't know what I was doing.
I think they knew you. They were like, oh, that's Randy Vasquez from the Tesla Experience.
Oh, my God. That's
Let
the
him in.
Phoenix car. Hey, I've seen that on Twitter. I still get
It's the
I still
EV
get people
podcast.
like him. Hey, you're that guy. You're the guy with
I'm
the
sure they'd let
Cybertruck,
Mike through, too, if he showed up.
No. First day that I got the Model Y, we tried going into Tesla HQ just to drive around there. It was a nice little kind of round trip of the first time driving it, and immediately the guy picked me out. He's like, hey, no one's allowed supposed to be here. Are you an employee?
Well, that's Fremont. They know what they're doing there.
No.
Texas was
No.
like...
Tesla HQ, not Fremont. Tesla HQ
Tesla
in
HQ
Palo
is
Alto.
different. They don't know what they're doing.
This isn't Texas. Texas is the wild, wild west, and
Even though
Yeah.
it's more east.
They'd see all your cyber merch and assume you must be an employee. No customer would
Right.
buy that much.
So every single contractor, everything after a certain point had to be labeled with the Tesla T, which was amazing. And I mean everything to the point like the barricades had to have a little spray painted Tesla T on it.
Oh.
Yeah. The contractors' helmets that they were wearing, the hard hats, had a spray painted Tesla T on it. If they were wearing a reflector, it had to have the T. Everything that they had to. And it looked like they were simping for Tesla, but it was just it's part of their. I don't know if it's inventory quality control or something, but everything had a spray painted T, and it was amazing. It was almost weird because I'm like, oh, this is overkill, but everyone's walking around like normal. It's like, you got buy the merch, It's like,
I mean, if you're getting those on-site photos, Randy, you gotta make sure everyone's rocking the Tesla logo, or else this is just some other factory somewhere else. And how are the high-end executives gonna be like, ooh, yes, Tesla branded stuff that is making our new factory?
That stuff will sell for thousands if they decide.
Oh my goodness!
I'm going to sell my hard hat from GigaTexas. Someone will buy that.
there are collectors like that for sure. I might be one of those for sure's.
I wonder
I'm
if
gonna
you
buy
showed
for
up
$1,000.
on one of the drone shots then, Randy. I wonder what time you got there. Because
I was looking for
could
you.
have you could have people from like Tesla Austin, the Tesla Austin Club
Mhm.
or Jeff Roberts could have picked you up with your green Model
Possibly.
3. And that, I mean, with the footage that we've seen of the Cybertruck rolling around there, it probably won't be too hard to spot a green Model 3 hanging out.
I look for
I'll
you.
give you a timestamp. I'll give you a timestamp and we'll see. I was on location. Yeah, here, that's good.
Write that down. Write that down.
Write that down.
Around. Oh, that's true. I can't give you the date. Oh, yes, you can. It's not that hard to find out when I was there, but I'm not going to say it on here to not incriminate myself. I took a picture of as I was leaving.
In May at
took a
some
picture
time.
In May at some time, I took one of my last photos I took was at 2 p.m., a little after 2 p.m. So I was there for a little bit, So
They
for a
got.
little bit.
Not a bad answer.
I could tell after. What's interesting is both times the Cybertruck was spotted at Texas after it came back from New York. The drone pilots did not realize they had caught it. Both times. The Texas Terrafactory guy just uploaded a video like it was a normal Friday, and then people were like, "What's that?" And he was like, "Oh, hey, why is it on the second floor?" It was just some people thought it was a cutout. They thought it was like oh, that's not the Cybertruck. They just saw like the side of
Some
it.
banner.
It's
They
too
were like,
obvious.
No, it's 2-dimensional. That's just a flat. No, it's like, of course it is. It's the Cybertruck. It's not 3D. The Cybertruck's a 2.5D at best. But
This is the greatest type of promoting that they're ever doing with the Cybertruck because
Oh,
of
I
all
know.
not just the free press, but I think about like it's on a cross country tour, like it's a celebrity doing a concert, and
just
and people
exists,
are
though. It's
lining
not
up.
performing.
Yeah, it's just there, and like, oh my God, there it is. And I think about how genius this marketing is for people who have doubts, who want to see it up close and stuff like I went from a skeptic where I wasn't sure to a complete believer when I saw it in person. So it worked for me. And I wonder how many people like that, especially in a populated place like New York and just everywhere, Texas, that's great PR for free. Just to be like, felt like testing, taking out the old truck and it just, oh my God, look at that. This is amazing that I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more of this happening as we get closer to launch. That they would do this again because it works. I genuinely believe it works. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
it does. I wonder if they're intending to keep it based on just, it was at Texas, and then they shot it over to New York really quick for SNL and everything. And then immediately after SNL, they basically threw it back in the trailer and took it back to Texas. I wonder if their goal is to just keep it at Texas for its whole life. Like if they just want it to hang around there, or the only other thing I could imagine them doing is maybe taking it to the Alaska facility for winter testing, but it's still a prototype.
I mean, that's the prototype. They'd bring in the kind of production ready type of things, kind of like what Lucid does here in the Bay Area with driving around there.
Yeah.
I would think it might come either to the LA design studio again, where it's probably been living for a long time, ever since unveiling. Just a whole bunch of designers looking at it, trying to be like, okay, we'll replicate this panel, but this one we're going to change up a little bit. This is where the side mirror is going to go. I think that's what they probably do with it.
Yeah.
Or they maybe pull kind of like what they did on Battery Day is they bring it up here to the Fremont factory to,
I hope so.
I don't know, if there's the rumors of pilot production here at Fremont for some Cybertrucks, which that seems weird to me. Maybe they bring it up just to kind of compare it to the original prototype, but I fully expect it at least being up here for the shareholder meeting.
I hope.
That's when they usually bring their fun cars. I mean, was it 2 years ago? Bringing the matte red Tesla Semi,
Yep.
the red Roadster, and then the red Model Y was quite a treat. I think seeing the Roadster again for I think this is the 4th year it'd be going to a shareholder meeting, which is hilarious. Tesla Semi again, most likely, and then a Cybertruck. That'd be pretty cool.
A red Cybertruck.
Yeah, I don't expect it staying in Texas forever. I think
Tesla
it might
starts
go
getting
to
colorful too with the colors of Cybertruck and
makes it matte black.
White bezels.
White bezels on it and different tints of blue and orange and all that.
Oh my goodness.
But they're gonna
I think-
discontinue all the black stuff.
Yeah, I think it'll go to Boca Chica at some point, maybe this week or next week. I fully
That makes
expect it
sense.
maybe going there, making a cameo for SN15, I think, that they're launching. So
Again.
could be there for SN15 if it lands. And they'll be like, hey, look, here's a Cybertruck right next to a Starship.
It'd be
So,
cool if
Excluding
they
events.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask. So you're thinking overall, excluding events, it would just be housed in Texas?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe get some nice kind of B-roll shots for their site or whatever, having it driving along the
That's
dirt
right.
roads around the factory.
I saw a tweet about that last night that well, this could be already out by the time this goes up, but I saw a tweet last night that said Tesla had filed for a prototype in motion filming on Austin city streets at some point. So there's people thinking that Tesla's going to be doing some video shots of the Cybertruck driving around on public streets. So that could be something they're saving for shareholder meeting or what have you. But the only concern I have of them driving the prototype around, because keep in mind, this is the same one from 2019. This is a two-year-old Cybertruck. Wonder how many miles it's got
Jeez.
on it.
It's older than my Y.
Yeah, the Cybertruck's kind of up there with age. So I'm wondering, like, if people are going to fall in love and get so obsessed with this particular prototype that when the production model comes out, if there's a lot of changes or side view mirrors and stuff, it might take people by surprise of like, oh, that's what it looks like. Or I expect the fundamental design to be the same, but if the production model's smaller with the mirrors, and people are so accustomed to playing, Where's Waldo with the Cybertruck and all these videos, like, can I find it? That's my only concern, is that the production model won't exactly fit the image that a lot of us are now using.
Do you think we might have the same? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because it's not even out either. I wonder if this is the same effect of what we would have with the Tesla Roadster, and people are so used to seeing the Roadster as what it looks like on the sites with its own production model that it has, that when the real one comes out, but maybe because it's going to be in so little quantity, it won't matter the same.
True.
But when we all three of us sitting right here, when we think about the Roadster, we are all thinking of the same Roadster right now that's there, and we know that's not going to be what the final one looks like. So
There'll be some tweaks, yeah.
for sure. So I think I feel that maybe people. I guess I can only speak from my own self. I feel like I would give a pass just because it's like, well, it's a polygon, and that's all I remember from it, and that's exactly what they'll do with the Cybertruck, no matter what the final version looks like, as long as it keeps the polygon shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with the Cybertruck, it'll look pretty similar. I think the Roadster will be the same. I'm actually more curious because the Cybertruck's coming out real soon. Wow, Drew is Starlinking for a really long time.
Yeah.
But,
Just keep rolling. We filled the
just keep rolling. But yeah, at least the Cybertruck, it's releasing, or at least hopefully releasing by the end of the year with some of its pilot production, or at least some customer-ready cars. So that's going to need the side view mirrors. But I think what at least the Tesla team could take advantage of is because the Roadster is kind of the sprinkles on the cake is what I kind of call it, because the icing is pretty much the Plaid Model S or the Plaid Plus Model S.
Right.
But the Roadster is definitely the sprinkles. And since it's being pushed back so much, it does kind of make sense that it might retain the same outside body look with no mirrors at all. Still that kind of mean look. Hopefully they maybe build in storage into it. But otherwise, I think the Roadster will still kind of look the same on the outside. But on the inside, I could see maybe some changes with either that arched screen that they have that only shows so much info.
Yeah.
Maybe adding a heads-up display behind the yoke. I forgot.
I think they'll modernize it in the way that they'll bring it up. I would feel they would want to bring it up with continuity with the other models that have the updates since then as well. So what we're seeing from the renders and the promo pics of Roadster was based off of an older consistency design interior wise, and this one.
That Roadster prototype that's at the Peterson Museum is older than your car, Randy.
That's so crazy to think about.
It's up there.
Yeah.
Anyway. Old car. It's beautiful though. You guys should definitely see it at some point in person. It's like a souped up Miata. If like you really want to try compare it to some car, it's definitely like a souped up Miata. It's beautiful.
Are we talking about the one at the museum?
Yeah. I haven't seen that one at that location because of course I think you can't see it until like May 21st or something like that. But I've seen it here in the Bay Area when it's been at a shareholder meeting, and
nice.
Yeah, pictures don't do justice. I took so many pictures and it still didn't do it justice. I think I took more pictures of the Roadster than I did of the Y, even though the Y was something my wife and I were going to take delivery of within months that we didn't even know. Right?
Well, yeah,
maybe not months.
Like, I'll be able to take tons of pictures of that. This I'm only going to see once or twice.
I think that's every Tesla really that no picture has done it. At least not our our crappy smartphone ones in comparison to like professional photographers and their gear that can give you more proportional, true to size. But even then, like no photo I've ever seen would give any of it justice. The first time I saw a Model X, I was like, "Oh wow, that thing looks like a souped up S," which for all intents and purposes it was. But when I saw the thing in person, I was like, "Oh wow," which is not hard for someone who's short as me. But I was like, "This is really big." And then the Model 3 was even more slick in person from many of the photos. I fell in love with it. The first time I saw the Model 3 in person, I fell in love right there. I was like, "This is it." I just knew. That was the one. It was a thing. And the truck, Cybertruck, same thing. I wish there was a way we could, use our augmented reality stuff and from our phones and let's just shoot it out in live, pinch up to true to size, and so you can back up and you can walk around and be like, "Oh yeah, this makes more sense," instead of like a little itty bitty render of it. But I went off on a tangent somewhere.
I tried catching
a
peak.
Talking about.
Oh, I mean, we're talking about how much the Cybertruck is going to change. I think where it originally stemmed from is the Cybertruck.
We're killing time until Drew got back. He was start leaking on us.
We were just talking about the Roadster and how different it was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing all these videos people are posting from the factory workers, and it looks great. It's all dirty now again. That poor guy had to wash it for New York, and then they just took it right back in the mud. But it's still got door handles, which Elon's saying isn't going to happen, and I have my doubts that the law is going to change to allow them to ditch the mirrors. So I hope that they get the actual production model out somewhat soon so people can have their expectations be more realistic. But yeah,
I love how cynical you become, Drew. Now you just question everything he tweets and retweets, like, "Oh, right around the corner, really easy." Now I've taken your optimism. I brought you down to my level.
The mirrors thing hasn't ever changed. Like the Model X prototype didn't have mirrors either.
I'd say for reference, Drew, the Model Y didn't really get finalized until like that last month.
Yeah.
In January, February, because it was going to have the Model X type of tailgate. Or there's a difference. There's either the Model X tailgate or the Model 3 kind of looking trunk opening.
I noticed
with the tailgate.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that I saw at the shareholder meeting 2 or 3 years ago had the Model X type of tailgate. And it was a nice, pleasant surprise when we got the Model 3 looking one because, I don't know, it seems a lot space efficient, or it looks a lot nicer to me than the Model X one. It seems a little bit less like a chute that you put stuff in. It seems more like a tailgate. So
I just think it's safe to say that was so... The Y prototype towards Y production model, there was so little changes. Like you'd have to be kind of a techie EV person to kind of notice those types of things. It's like it's still got mirrors, it's still got door handles, general design. The biggest change from prototype to production model was probably the stock rims. There's no arrow wheels. We got rid of those. Other than that,
January.
it's pretty much all essentially the same. There's minor tweaks here and there. Whereas Cybertruck, I would say, if Elon's accurate with his production model things, and I still don't believe they're going to be able to change the law on the mirrors, that's a lot of changes from prototype to production. So I'm basically telling people looking at the videos, don't fall too much in love. It might be a little different than that. As long as that general iconic shape is there, I still think it'll look good. But I don't know.
I'm sure people could just get a sticker and just put them on the sides of the door to pretend that they've got the door handles, like the Model S.
I was imagining little cardboard mirrors.
Oh,
you
that
just
too,
knock
yeah.
them off.
Yeah.
Knock them off right when you pick them up. Wow, wait a minute. Look, they ship with mirrors. Yeet.
Knock it right off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Randy, have you gotten the chance to see some of the beautiful, stunning photos from Laguna Seca in the last few days?
No, oh no. The only thing I've had a chance to see in the last few days was beautiful cement, concrete, asphalt, and everything in between of that. That's all I've gotten to see. No,
There's
I heavily rely on you guys to tell me anything that I've missed within the last week.
there's a new Plaid Plus Model S in town,
Oh,
and
We think it's Plaid Plus.
I'm pretty sure it's Plaid Plus. I don't think they'd put it on the Plaid or the long range.
I
But
agree.
it's got a retractable spoiler on the back. So like,
Sticks up.
I don't know if you are familiar with McLarens, with like maybe the McLaren 720 with that spoiler that kind of moves up a little bit but then can retract into the body, or maybe like the Speedtail, I guess.
Or
I don't
the
know if
Roadster,
Speedtail is it.
which also has
Or the
that.
Roadster, except the Roadster has like a tiny one. It's a little tiny one that pops up. This
Well,
is like the whole
McLaren.
entire back panel
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the car that lifts up as a spoiler, and it looks fantastic. I didn't know that
That's amazing.
Tesla was going to possibly look at that option for Model S. It's not a bad choice.
Mm-mm.
oh. So this new Model S Plaid Plus
Plaid Pro Max.
Plaid Pro Max. Its greatest thing is this spoiler. Is that the?
Well, that
like,
and probably the 520-mile range, too. That's
Yeah,
pretty great.
Yeah, that's expected at this point. I feel like the way I've been selling, almost every day, and I would somebody will post it on on Instagram, and then I would share the story if they tagged me in it. I was showing somebody the Model 3, and they were like, "Did you know the biggest misconception?" I think I can fairly accurately say cross country. The biggest misconception people have is they think the actual Tesla battery needs to be replaced in a very short period of time. They believe that they're like, this is going to cost you the same. They're like, oh, this is a good car, but
You have to replace the batteries like your TV remote.
you have to take it in. They're thinking like when they had to go get they're thinking too legacy automobile, which I get it because that's all their only point of reference is. But they're like, but when you take it in on the 5-year mark, young man, it's gonna cost you quite a bit. And that's what one guy said to me. But their biggest misconception, the most consistent misconception I've heard cross country, was that the battery has to be replaced, and it gets replaced within the first 2, 3 to 5 years. And I was like, no. And they're like, really?
Yeah, that's not a
I'm
good
like,
misconception.
Yeah,
You
they're
need
like,
to replace your battery. It's been,
oh my god, it's been 2 years.
a year or two, yeah. I think you
And
need to replace
so-
your battery.
It's time.
That's what they were saying. I told them, I was like, no, that's not how that works. And they're like, well, what happens with the battery? I'm like, and so then I nerd out for a very quick second. I'm like, oh, well, battery degradation happens only within and then it plateaus. And then I did the whole spiel. And then I told them, it's like, because then they'll go like, all right, so you're telling me what's the longest running the other most the most frequent question I get is, what's the longest battery? How far do they go? What's the longest battery on the road? And I'm like, there are cars, there are people who are dedicated to just driving the car around to its full capacity. They have like burner Teslas. They're just driving to see when it just craps out. And I told him, like, I can reassure you confidently at the 500,000 mile mark, it was still going. And you won't see that with a gas vehicle with a transmission and then parts that need
I've never hit
services
that with any of my gas vehicle.
No, they
or
will
any
die.
of my
They will all-
families.
Yeah, everything's slotted for 200,000 to 300,000. If you can get over that, then you've done well with taking care of it. But I'm like, there was a Model S that surpassed 500,000 miles on the same battery, and they're like, well, that's gonna be looking bad. It's like, well, I mean, it's not gonna be any. It's almost like you also have to put in context that these are cars that came out in the early 2010s, so they're hitting their decade-old mark right now, and they're still running just fine. And these are people who are purposely pushing the Model S to do that. Now imagine if you just acted like a normal person with your car and drove it normal amount of time, and how long that would last you. You're going to get 10 years easy out of this thing. And they're like, well, what about what? And so they're so fixated on the battery because they get that panic about driving and gas. And like, well, what happens? And I said, we haven't hit that situation yet where this has become a problem or a mass problem. I would assume when the time comes, batteries that do cost $12,000 or so today will only be cheaper when the time comes for you, like $8,000, $6,000 later. So it would not depreciate, but it would be cheaper to get the same battery, or you still pay the $12,000 and maybe you get one of the newer battery cells that would come out. That part we don't really know yet. I'm speculating. It'd be cool to have that one. I wouldn't mind instead of I can picture 15 years from now with that car. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I want to swap out the battery, even though there really won't be a reason. But say I wanted to just be a madman with some range. If they let me get the new battery cell, I would swap it out. I would happily pay $10,000, $15,000 to get something that will give me significant more. Just efficiency alone. I'm not even thinking about range, but efficiency alone, I would be happy to do something like that as opposed to buying a brand new anything. So they're like, oh, so it's modular. I'm like, yeah, well, modular. No, it's not modular, but it's not as doom and gloom as you think. Yeah, there's modules. But so that was the biggest misconception. It was very interesting because I don't know. It's cool to be pulled out of my element because even if before I was an owner of one, being a tech fanatic, I just know certain rules about batteries or something. I just knew. I've researched Tesla since its inception. I was fixated, but these people who don't, they just pay attention to what comes on the news. It was cool to see the from the other side. It's like, well, why don't you like a Tesla? And then they tell me these valid concerns that they have through misguided information. And so I hope that I've enlightened some people to be like, well, it might not be for you, but do believe that this is not they think that, like, oh, it's just a money pit. Like you're just throwing money at it forever.
It can be.
Like, no. If you're dumb like me and you want to keep changing things and buying, then you could do that. Or you could be smart and just get a used inventory. I thought that you can go on a used inventory right now from Tesla and get some pretty decent cars if you wanted to get a Model S still, because everyone's more fixated on the Model S. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be the newest interior.
Go get a 75 kilowatt one. That one's about the same, or a little bit less pricey than mine. And it's got basically the same specs. Yeah. And that's a new Model Y, or I guess a year-old one.
I am interested in the future of these battery replacements because, like, the Plaid Plus is the first Model S to use 4680s. Like, that's the plan. That's how it gets the 1100 horsepower, and I'm glad that they're incorporating that retractable spoiler, because I do agree that the Plaid Plus should have a little bit more than just, the slightly better horsepower, slightly
better
faster
batteries.
Yeah, it just has better batteries and better range. That's cool and all, but having some extra little flex in there for the spoiler and maybe making some exclusive interiors.
It actually flexes out. I get it.
Yeah, like giving the Plaid Plus a little something extra. But I have to think with the structural battery pack on the 4680s, Tesla is probably abandoning the idea of letting you upgrade or swap out the battery someday when it goes below a certain battery health percentage. Like, I believe they used to talk about doing that if you fell below 70%, they'd be willing to replace the battery. But with 4680s ramping and everything, and those being optimized for the structural design, I don't know if they'd ever make like a pack of 4680s to retrofit into your old 2170 Model 3s and Ys. I know they want to keep buying 2170s from their current suppliers, so I could still see them offering battery replacements in the future, but I think their end game is to just the batteries last so long that by the time the battery's degraded, the vehicle will be so old that it's not even worth like I'm imagining the 4680's degradation to be so little, even after like 1 million miles. It's like the car will die in some other form. It'll get totaled or something will happen before you hit 1 million miles. I can hardly think of that many gas cars that get that far. So
Civilization will be on Mars by then. Don't worry about it.
Right.
We'll have Mars versions of these cars.
I think you both bring up a good point. Yeah, I thought about that as well. I can't speak. Randy, I thought about the same. I was about to say Nick. Hi, Nick.
Wow.
Hope you're doing
It's
well,
weird
Nick.
with Nick not
Randy,
being here. We started the show and no one was like freaking out. I was like,
yeah.
oh.
That's why I started doing the jazz hands, I
Oh
guess.
no, I don't want to. I have a piece of paper right here from the base that, and this is not. I'm being very genuine. I have
Secret
to make
file.
sure I'm not. I can't. No. And this is just saying you cannot be too loud, or you might be asked to leave.
Wow.
There's a story. I'll have to tell you guys offline. There's a very
Texas didn't
specific reason
stop
about
you,
that.
but
No.
I
No,
guess
but
the Navy
having a
has
place
more
to live-
authority.
Having a place to live for the next 2 weeks. I'll play nice.
Nice. What was I going to say?
Hi, Nick.
Yeah. With the 4680s, it would be interesting if they did kind of adopt that idea of replacing kind of your 2170 battery pack with the 4680.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Drew brings up a good point as well that the 4680s are meant to be a structural battery pack.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not have that modularity that we think. A good comparison that I wanted to bring up was the new Model Ys and Model 3s have the double pane glass.
Yeah.
It reduces sound. It's a nice benefit. I asked Tesla, hey, can we retrofit that into mine? Like, let's just hypothetically say I accidentally break the window one day, or some kid hypothetically throws a rock through my window.
I oopsie throw a steel ball, and I'm like, hey, is this a Cybertruck?
Let's just hypothetically say Franz von Holhausen comes over to my house and throws a ball bearing at my
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
They basically said, nah, there's the old Model Y and Model 3 windows that we'll install, and the new Model 3, Model Y windows that we'll install. Since yours is an older one, we'll give you the old single pane. You can't get the double pane because it's a bit thicker, and your vehicle wasn't designed for that thickness of glass.
I see.
So it might be the same thing with our cars, Randy, where it would be nice to get the 4680 pack put into our car, but it just might not be designed from the ground up for that purpose. We might just, because it makes sense that Tesla will still be getting 2170s from external partners, or they might have some line somewhere making them either at Nevada or anywhere else. And we'll just get those packs whenever our battery packs die out or we need a
boy
replacement.
can dream, and I feel like we can be optimistic. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a situation come up where, if not through Tesla, some third party something is going to try to make this happen. They'll find a way to force the new glass windshields to see. Maybe it's not as thick. Maybe just because people like to challenge things and see what it is. But for all intents and purposes, I won't be going through with it. If it's not within the realms of Tesla's servicing, if Tesla's not going to service it, I'm not going to take it to a third party anything when it comes to the structural integrity of the vehicle.
Because you'll be dead to Tesla then. They'll be like, you did what?
First
No
you
more
come
supercharging for you.
First you come to our factory uninvited. Love you. It's good. It's
It's
free
pretty
gas.
cool though. Like
Yeah.
both of our cars would just like turn into new cars at that point, Randy.
I
Like
know.
Pretty much.
it would just be it would be like buying a new car. the amount of range that we get.
If we get a brand new battery of the old one though, and we still get a brand new one, a part of me feels like it's a brand new car again anyway from 2019. And I'm not like, context matters, and this is still. Just when I was juicing up, when I got in last night, I started just charging it, and I was watching as more of the superchargings were lighting up, saying that what's in my distance. As it gets more, it starts to grow more and more and more and more and more. And then I saw it go from here, and then it's like, ooh, I can barely. When I first got here, I couldn't really make it to DC. Then it's like, oh, now I can make it all of DC. Oh, now I could do all of Baltimore. Oh, I can go to Jersey. Like watching it grow like that on this battery, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's good enough. I didn't have any issues with the cross country trip on this battery. This was the smoothest commute I've ever done in my life. I offered Brittany, I was like, do you want to trade? And because she took her car too, her little Yaris, and I was like, we can rotate. And all that, but she's like, no. And she's like, if I'm going to be honest, I don't really feel comfortable utilizing the Autopilot the same way. That's not why. That's not what attracts her to Tesla. It's not the software. She loves the functionalities of what will be with the Cybertruck. But outside
Our
of
wives
that,
are too similar, Randy.
I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say
Yeah.
Mike's wife was the same way. When she drove
just-
me and Louise around for an afternoon, she never turned on Autopilot a single time.
She
that's
went
Brittany.
down to the Central Valley recently, and I'm like, did you use full self-driving? And she's like, no. I
No.
just used the kind of the enhanced cruise control in terms of she's still kind of steering and stuff, but it's
That's
doing all of
that's
the
Brittany.
accelerating. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
interesting.
So
It's
I
like a guy
offered.
thing, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe like, what does that say about us, Mike? What the type of people we attract? I mean, Mike is a very
Wives
good-looking man.
Love
so, I mean-
Cybertrucks, and they don't like using full self-driving. And I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, I
but
mean,
anyways, so you drove the 3 basically the whole way then.
yeah. I just want the record to be clear that I offered to rotate, but she was like, "No, it's fine." And then, oh my goodness, yeah. I was thinking about. I'll conclude about the Tesla part in a bit, but we have a genuine I don't know how far spread it is now, but we were affected by it last night. This whole gas situation on the East Coast with I guess like there's a hack going on with the pipeline and people can't fuel up or anything like that. Poor Brittany she was like, I'm not gonna make it. I genuinely am gonna run out of gas
Wow.
before we even get into North Carolina.
How
And so
ironic.
Right.
Isn't that hilarious? I
And
mean,
so she tells me-
it's not good. I understand.
No, I know.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, like that this happens as you're doing a cross-country road trip with your Tesla and your gas car, and the question
Yeah.
is, the gas car might not make it.
The gas car might not make it, and I was like, okay, because I told her, and we were driving together all the way up until yesterday. After leaving in Atlanta, because Atlanta was our last stop. I told her just go up ahead and just get to base check-in before midnight, so that way we don't get charged extra days of leave and all that. And I was like, I'll meet up with you when I get there. I'm projected to get there close to midnight. She was projected to get here around 10 p.m. I got here first, so
Wow.
it was crazy. And the first thing she says is like, so we go buy. She goes, so we go buy a Model Y now.
That's my kind of girl. Get a Model Y.
Model Y.
She goes, we go get a Y now. I was like, well, that's quite a permanent solution to a temporary problem with this gas thing. And I was like, don't worry. Next week, the electrical grid will get hacked next, and then I'm SOL. So we'll see what happens. But that was a very interesting. In that moment, I realized, like, there's no other place I would rather be than in my car driving on the freeway, because I had all these nice all these stops at Supercharging along the way, and it was always open. I pulled
Tells
over.
you the status of each one.
Yep. And I had one, if you saw my tweet, I was panicking about one where it's like, ooh, I had a maintenance icon. I'm like, oh, this is bad, because if I go to this one and it's not working, I will not make it to I don't remember what my next one was. It was probably like, it was somewhere in
Tornado Valley.
Alabama. I was in Alabama. Yeah, somewhere in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I don't make it here, it's telling me I will barely make it to the next one with 3% battery.
Ooh.
And I was like, well, I guess I'm driving, 45 miles per hour on the freeway now. I guess
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. So I ended
Right.
up driving. I was like, you know what? I'm going to risk it because worst case scenario, we were going to stop at her old base that she was at for school. And I was like, I'll just find an outlet, 110 outlet, and just I'll stay there for a while. And then I was just going to tell her, go up ahead and I'll catch up to you in Virginia or what have you. Luckily, because I actually ended up calling Tesla to ask them, can you please, this is my first road trip like this, can you, explain in further detail what this, reduced services, what does that mean? Is some of the line down? Is the whole line down? Guy goes, if the whole line was down, it would not show up on your map at all. They would just take the
Oh,
blip
that's
away.
Good.
So he goes, so you wouldn't, it's not even a factor. If it was there, you would very clearly see big red X. It would not route you there. So
I see.
you would have to manually put in the GPS to that location if you still wanted to get there, but you would see the little red bubble, and you try to touch it with the cross through, and it won't route you. He goes,
Gotcha.
most of the time it's just removed if it's offline. If you see the little maintenance icon that's happening right there, if it says reduced services, you are still going to get a charge. You're just not going to get the same rate. So if you wanted to get on the road and get in and out quickly, that's not going to happen. I was like, oh no, I just need 10 more miles from me just to I'm having range anxiety. He goes, oh yeah, don't even worry about it. I got there, and I don't know why
All
the
closed.
maintenance icon all closed. Yeah,
That's
I don't know why
actually-
the maintenance icon was there because the whole thing was not working. So
I wanted to
"This is
quickly
my life."
say, Randy, in the middle of this trip, you say that they'd take it off the map. They didn't do that for me one time.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
I was going to go charge at Fremont Factory. I get there, and they're repaving the whole parking lot. If you remember where we met up when me and Drew met up, that parking lot was getting repaved. But it still said that the supercharger was open, and I go look, I'm like, it's impossible to get to the supercharger.
I bet it technically was still working, though. It was just
I'm
you
sure it
couldn't
was still
get to
working.
it.
You just couldn't get to it. It was like, then why not?
The grid isn't the supercharger network isn't designed to optimize.
Don't worry, sir. It is working. You getting there, on the other hand.
I think that's the beauty of the
That's
Bay
not our
Area, then, is
problem.
that I could just
That's-
drive
that's-
up or
that
down the
sounds
road
like a
a
huge
couple
situation.
minutes.
Yeah, that
Hopefully
sucks.
they can they can pick up on that in the future. If it's like this one
Yeah,
is
maybe they-
inaccessible.
Yeah.
You weren't able to charge there at all, or
No, but I mean it's the Bay Area, so you've got a supercharger every 5 minutes.
It's like a
Fair enough.
Starbucks. Oh no!
Yeah.
Basically.
goes to the next one. Anyway,
That was the kind of fearful thing that I saw. I guess I don't want to go too far off the beaten path to finish your story, Randy. But
Very good.
the wife and I were looking at how many superchargers there are here in the Bay Area, and then compared it to Austin, which is kind of becoming the new Bay Area in terms of Silicon Valley tech stuff. Drastic
Silicon Hill.
difference between superchargers. In Austin, there's a handful, and it's
Yeah.
mainly in the northern part of it.
there's 3 or 4 main ones. Probably no more. I would say maybe 5. I think 5.
Yeah. And then you look at the Bay Area,
Totality?
it's just like a Christmas tree or a Christmas
Yeah.
tree on fire in terms of the amount of superchargers. So,
For sure.
Anyway,
That's how it is right
sorry.
here. No, you're good.
so
You're good.
You got there in time, or not in time, but you got there with not too much range anxiety, just a little
Yeah.
bit more shaken
So,
in terms of stirred.
I learned a proper etiquette though if something isn't working. I did not know this. Proper etiquette is that if you, because when I got to the one that had the maintenance icon, I pulled up to one of the stalls. I plugged in and it wasn't charging. I was like, oh my god, the whole line's down. But then there was a car next to me and the guy was as well. He's like, hey man, the guy next to me just left. If you're not getting a charge on yours, use this one. I'm like, are you getting a charge? He goes, yeah. Is it full charge? Is it going at full speed? Everything? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh. So maybe it's this. I'm like, this isn't working. And so he told me, he's like, all right, proper etiquette, unplug it and just put it on the little hoop down beneath and to indicate that it's out of service. And so just so that way other drivers don't drive up to it, for one, and two, when evidently you have maintenance crew that drive by and they do periodic checkups on all the stations anyway. So you have a local technician of sorts that will drive by just to look at some stuff. He's like, unplug it and lay it down. That'll indicate that one's not good for use because the light was still on. It was still illuminating. So normally if the stall is off, they would turn off the light. That much I know. But the light was still on. So he's like, just put it down. I'm like, cool. So then I learned a little bit of, proper Tesla etiquette for these charging stations. And then the other one was charging at full speed. So I was like, oh, perfect.
Interesting. Here in the Bay, we do something a little bit different. We usually loop it around the top of the supercharger and almost like a knot, if you're trying to
nice
tie it on the top. So that way it doesn't get too dirty, or if it rains, it's not in a puddle. We kind of just hang it over the top and then bring it to almost like you're tying.
You tie it up with your
Hermes
watch
the thick cable will let you?
There you go.
Goodness.
And then you
with
put
your
an
Rolex
AirTag on it.
You put your
That's
Rolex
the thing.
around it, your spare one.
The spare one, right? To say that somebody of importance was here.
Yeah.
Does the thick cable let you do that?
The cable? I mean, it's long enough to where you can go, I don't know, like maybe 5 or 6 feet with it, right? And so it hooks up kind of at the top. So if you kind of loop it up over the top, you're kind of getting your fingers kind of.
I'll try it today. I'll tinker with it and try it today because you know what I'm noticing. Last night I went to a very new, charging station that they just built, and nice. I mean
V3
before I got on. Say again.
V3.
I don't know. Okay. I'll follow up with you later on today because I'm going to go back there today. I'll follow up with you. I know it's new because even the layout, how they're mounting the set. You know how like normally it's just you back into it and it's flat. The newer most of the ones they're doing side angled ones like this now instead of this way. Even the hooks themselves are looking different, and the plug looks more like the cable that you and I would have, Mike. That it's a lot thinner, so it's more movable. Whereas some of the older ones I see, they're very thick, very chonk, and they just and I think like I can't bend this at all. It looks like a big old hoagie or something, it's just there. So yeah, that's right. So I'll take a look. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a V3. It just showed up on the map. Not halfway, like day one of me driving out here, where a week ago it was not out here. There was only one, and that was in Virginia Beach. And I was like, damn, that's a long drive. This one's right here. It's brand new, brand new.
Another reason to appreciate Tesla and the supercharging network.
It just grows.
Yeah,
the prefabricated deployments they've been doing, where they like build them out on the cement already and just take them right off the truck. They can do it a lot faster.
That's awesome.
I was looking at the map, and yeah, you're right. Austin has like just about 4 or 5, and then you scroll over to the Bay Area. It's like they're all overlapping each other. There's like 500 right next to each other. It's like
I think that's going to change in the next year with GigaTexas being there. It's really going to be an influence on how many superchargers are in the Austin area, along
and they need
with
some big
the
ones.
Surrounding area. Oh yeah, especially some pull through, please. Pull through. We need some pull through for the Cybertrucks.
Thick pull through.
That's how they're gonna.
Superchargers.
They put the way they use like at shopping centers and malls is they'll have a line of them that look like this, and then on the far ends they have the corner ones like that. And I noticed that the parking is even wider, and I'm like,
those are for trailering, but it's not really a viable solution because what my wife and I noticed is you kind of block the aisleway for cars coming in and out, right? Because you pull in and it's a little bit wider, so yeah, you have a little bit more wiggle room to get in, but the trailer's still hanging out, so
yeah,
pull throughs a little bit more ideal.
Better, but not the best. It's like a step in the right direction.
So there's a place in Texas. Any Texas listeners will attest to this because I was unaware, and I have been enlightened. Imagine a Costco gas station. All right, just picture what you're picturing right now: lines, stalls, waiting. There's like a little fleet of them, just maybe 4 to 8 per line per row, and cars are just pulling in and out like that. Okay. Now imagine that, but about 120 of them. A place called Buc-ee's is the shizness. My goodness. I was driving between San Antonio and Austin, and I look over, I'm just like, what the hell is that? And I'm just seeing a fleet of just rows, very spacious out. Like, I mean, completely like this. Everybody's social distancing in Texas, and then nobody wearing a mask. And you don't need to. You're everybody over there was like 20 feet away from one another. It was a whole fleet, and I was doing the math, and I was starting to, rough estimates, like easily over 100 stalls, and everyone just pulls up, parks their car. I almost said charge up. Start filling up. You can walk inside this like almost Walmart type of thing. Imagine a Walmart parking lot, but just filled of gas stations and stuff like that. It's called Buc-ee's. And like, my God, I was driving. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Oh my God, it's still going. What is this? Some Twilight Zone? And so
it's like a runway.
And this is a thing. Yeah, this is a thing. Every Texan knows about it, and it's their thing. That for Cybertrucks.
Yeah.
That will,
V4 supercharged.
that's right.
It's just like the size of a runway.
Hey,
solar panels everywhere.
You think about the Fairly Odd Parents, and they're like, they're on the escalator. When are we going on the ride? This is the ride.
Forgot about the episode.
That's it.
That would be all of us at a fleet of charging stations like that, the size that can house very comfortably Cybertrucks with things attached to it in the back, any trailer, anything, and it's like, what do you want to do today? Like, do you want to go to SeaWorld? Do you want to go to Disneyland, Six Flags? No, let's go to the charging network. Like, they call it some fancy name, and you go there, and then you go inside and you shop around, because they always put them in shopping centers and stuff anyway. So you go do your thing. I was like, Buc-ee's, but for Tesla, would be the perfect like thing in general.
Chargies.
Because if it's good, that's it. If it takes so long to charge up the Cybertruck anyway, because it's gonna have such a ridiculous battery amount on it,
miles.
then go play. It's so cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I can't wait for the future where you park at one of these huge shopping centers. You have swaths and swaths of superchargers all around, kind of like what you have at Target parking lots, or kind of like what Buc-ee's is. You just have all different types of Teslas, right? You kind of get some of the ones that have been customized, like what you saw or what you drive, Randy, with a wrapped green or a porcelain blue, like that Y that you shared on your Instagram. That was beautiful. I love that. If I had a whole bunch of money, I'd probably do that to my Y, and I don't know if my wife would be okay.
That's
with
what Brittany
that. We'll
said.
see.
She goes, I think we have a new favorite. And I was like, I want a divorce.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, you'd see those, and then it's like different shapes and sizes of these Teslas, or at that point, maybe even Apteras and other vehicles that are allowed to supercharge as well. So you'll see just all these different types, like old Model 3s, new Model 3s, old Model S's and new ones, and Roadsters and Cybertrucks and Apteras. Man, like, that's going to be a fantastic future where you just see literally a grid of electric cars.
Yeah.
And the Roadster
think,
has to beat people away as it gets in. Everyone's going to want to look at it. Whenever someone pulls in with a Roadster, everyone's going to be like, let me see. Can I take a picture?
Guys, oh, man, the amount of people that surrounded my car because they were so curious. I actually have a cute story. I was in New Orleans, and there was I went through a very rough neighborhood. There's very small roads, pothole everywhere you go. I was driving so slow. This is one of the areas that, from my observations, did not recover since Hurricane Katrina. And excuse me. But there's these kids outside, 6 years old, plane, a little group of them, and they know the etiquette. A car's coming down the road, they back up and they just kind of stop playing in the road with the ball and they let the car pass. So that's what they see. They see a car coming, they stop, and they start backing up. And as they start backing up, like they stop and they're like, and they're watching, they're seeing this thing. And as I was driving, one of the kids just drops the ball, and he just starts jumping and cheering and clapping, yeah! and all these little 6-year-olds, like 10 6-year-olds, all just making this little yeah, jumping around, and I was just like waving at them and all that stuff, and
you're like, they love me.
Noises and what, and I was like, Queen Elizabeth who? But I was actually shocked because then I look at Brittany, I'm like, why did that happen? She goes because she's like, you just made their day. I was like, why? She goes, think about it. Like, those kids just saw a transformer drive by. Like, they'd never seen anything like that before, looking like this, designed like this. It's all quiet and everything, and like they're gonna remember this, for if not forever, for a very long time. Like, I saw an early car, so I was like, nice. I just made their day, and because if you look around at the vehicles that were around them, like these are things from the 1990s and stuff. Like they're just there. So their perception of advanced technology, that's not the area for it. I wouldn't go as far as to say I was in the projects, but it was one of the very lower end parts district of the New Orleans city, but that was really cool to see. And so that one, I know I'm gonna remember that for a long time, just to think that, like, okay, I think that, like, the way these kids light up, like, positive impact, positive memory. I want to save that one, as opposed to Texans, guys. I get it. All right, it's not my fault. You don't like Californians. That's not my problem. You don't like Tesla, evidently. That's also not my problem. Stop cutting me off. Stop cutting off people. Stop giving them the bird. They were trying to run me off the road. Someone was riding my back end. I was being bullied, and I was like,
wow,
I'm not the one. I'm not the one to mess with. But this is and every friend I saw in Texas, they're like, yeah, that's a thing. They're like, yeah, that's you got a Cali plate and you're driving a Tesla that looks like that. They resent you and they don't like you. And this was in Austin, and this was definitely outside of Austin everywhere. They weren't friendly at all. And I was like, it is what it is. Luckily I got used to it in some place like San Diego where that's how it would be. But the perception of, like, you just trying to mind your own, they think we're an elite class above them, which, I mean, they're right. I'm better than you, but still, that doesn't mean you have to run me off the road, so it was interesting seeing the just people's.
I know what you're talking about, or Randy. Gosh dang it.
My name is Randy, Mike.
Who are you again? I've never been on a podcast with you.
The type of person to aggressively drive around someone because you don't like their car. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I see pretty much any somewhat large pickup truck these days, I say to myself, what an ugly car. And I'll say it to Louise. Whenever I see someone's heavily modified, or I can tell someone painted a car themselves, and they were like, don't worry, babe, I'll paint it. And it has this splotchy, ugly, I just look, I'm like, man, what a bad looking car. Like, I'll just say it out loud because I know they don't hear me. I wouldn't say it to their face, but that's what California is all about. You have these negative, pessimistic thoughts, and you keep that crap inside. You just keep it to yourself. We're fake to each other, and everyone's happy, and no one gets angry. That's the California way. So I don't cut people off. What I will do is, if I see a Tesla driving around, I will follow it as closely as I can. So if I'm in the right lane and then a Tesla comes up on the fast lane, I'm just like, okay, I'm going in the fast lane now, and I'll just match speed with them so I can stay right behind as long as possible. I don't get close. I keep my distance, but if they go in the right lane, then I go back in the right lane, and I'll stay behind them as long as I can. And with the ugly cars, I'll just let them go, let them get away from me. those widened pickups, those super tall pickups. There's all kinds of ones I just despise, but the idea that you would like cut them off or try to drive them off the road, it's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
I despise
I think the
that.
beauty that we have, Randy, with our cars is they're not slow. So if you're in a situation where someone's riding your bumper or they're getting dangerously close to you on the left or right, if you've got open space in front of you, just book it. Like, we have the acceleration.
I may or may not, at times, let out a little bit of aggression, the non-California way. I blame the Marine Corps for this part. Somebody did something, and I may or may not have I got out of chill mode because I'm a pretty chill guy, whatever. And I went just standard. I was like, okay, mother. And I may or may not have, first catch up to him like that. I may or may not have gone in front of him, and I may or may not have like, congratulations, now we're both doing 30. And he may or may not have gone off the road and got into like this patch of grass to try to get around me again. And I was like, I hope you hit a rock. I hope something happens.
Jeez.
I hope you scratch
I'm gonna
the bottom.
assume
I
may
hope your
not.
paint job's screwed.
May not.
Well, whatever. When I was in Atlanta, interesting enough, and evidently this is a thing in Atlanta, people want to race. I had 3 different people at different times drive up to me with their Mustangs. On
Not
the freeway.
the Mach-E, I take it.
No, Mach-E came up to me and they just went like this.
I'm still waiting for one of those moments. I still haven't gotten one. I don't think anyone wants to race the compact SUV. But
No, they don't.
I looked at him. I was like,
They know the answer to
one
that
moment,
question.
kind sir. Hold, please. Standard, sports.
Buys the acceleration boost.
I'm ready. Yeah.
the acceleration boost, right?
You're like at the stoplight, buys it, purchases Apple Watch.
Hello, good sir.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
One moment, please. I'm ready. And I
Too
launched
grand.
An
it. Guy,
expensive 0 to 60.
out of the 3 people that tried to race me, I only raced one of them, and I very promptly won. I was like, it's not even a competition at this point. But
You're like, oh, he didn't start. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's sad. Why did he stop in the middle of the freeway? Whatever. I could just tell you overall, just to sum up everything, like this was been a very interesting, very long road trip, but long in the sense that we stopped and saw people. But it's very interesting to see how any Tesla can perform under the conditions of stuff like this. And given context matters that we're experiencing a gas shortage with the East Coast and stuff like that. I've never been happier to have an EV.
Did you catch the video someone made about that?
I haven't seen anything. I didn't even know this was a thing until
It's
I got
kind of
into
like
New Orleans.
the guy who the guy buys AirPods and then how he treats everybody when he it's like when
Trevor
you own
Wallace?
a Tesla during the gas shortage. It's like, you guys hear about the gas shortage? Doesn't matter to me though. Like it was well done. I liked it. The guy afterwards was like, I actually don't know where I'm going to get gas. This is my friend's Tesla.
Oh my god!
No.
So he was like, I did this for fun, but also like it's true.
It is very true. They would post up signs saying that there's no gas here, and each exit, no matter how far you go down, no gas, no gas, no gas, no gas. And I'm like, wow. Do you want to call insurance and they can bring you gas? And she said, yeah, that's a thing. But wow, it was just weird to think about. But I've never been happier to have a Tesla than than yesterday. The road trip, oh my god, I can never cruise control or manually drive long distances ever again. It's FSD or nothing. It's enhanced autopilot or nothing. There is no in between.
I was gonna say that's the better term. I want if we can bring that question up at the annual shareholder meeting, that's what I'm gonna suggest. Changing the name back to enhanced autopilot.
You probably got to see a lot of the country, Randy, being able to put in navigate on autopilot and just being able to see the scenery around you. That's what I missed on my road trip in 2016. I drove a Toyota Matrix, and it was just like, nope, I have to stare at the lines and shift the gears because the Toyota Matrix is a manual. And so it's like, okay, I'm stuck staring at the road for 4,000, or actually 3,000 miles. Because then
Ooh.
it broke
Mike-
down after 3,000.
No.
Yeah.
I
Mike,
thought
you should
Randy was
definitely
going to
take
say,
your
no, I was asleep most of it.
I was in the back.
People ask me that too. It's like, are you sleepy? And I'm like, no.
Yes.
Even if I could, I don't want to. I'm having too much fun sightseeing. Mike, you should take a cross country trip with your Model Y.
We plan on doing
somewhere-
it.
I don't know,
Texas.
maybe like Virginia or something.
Be careful in
that'd be fun.
Texas. Don't let people run you over or run you off.
It is a thing.
I was going to
It's
say,
100% a thing.
Cybertruck will be good in Texas because if you're driving that around and someone comes up next to you and wants to drive you off, I bet you're going to be like, do it. Do it. You're like, try me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, if someone tries to run the Cybertruck off, they're just going to completely damage their pickup, and the Cybertruck will be fine. No damage.
That's right.
And it won't move, so it'll basically look like the other car just
That's it.
gets completely totaled, and the Cybertruck doesn't even budge. It's just the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, it's like I think a bug hit my window or something.
I actually mentioned this on the podcast last week, Randy. Something similar happened with my father-in-law and my sister-in-law when she was in high school, where basically Miata crashed into the back of their Ford F-350 and it had a hitch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
And they felt nothing, or basically
Like-
nothing. And then they look out and they're like, the Miata's like destroyed that crashed into them. It was just pretty
Is
hilarious.
that me? Did they hit me?
Yeah.
I think that NHTSA is going to say something when they test the Cybertruck. It's like, safest Tesla ever tested for all occupants inside the vehicle. Different story for those outside the vehicle.
R.I.P.
I have one question for your road trip experience.
Just one.
Would it... Just one. He answered most of my questions before I could ask them. But do you think the trip would have been... It may sound like an obvious answer, but I want it to be a tad more intricate. So do you think the trip
Sure.
would have been substantially better if you had a 400 to 500 mile range? Or did you feel like the supercharging stops were stops that probably would have been made regardless? Like there were an appropriate amount, or for most of the trip you were like, man, if I had a 500 mile, I could go so much further. I wouldn't have to stop here.
I understand what you're asking, but you're asking the wrong question. I will give you a statement that it's going to answer what you're really asking.
Okay.
The way that this was working for me, and I would assume how it works for most people, at no point am I even asked during the route. If I went from San Diego to Virginia and I just did that instead of saying, okay, I want to go to Austin, but the in-betweens would have been the same. At no point am I asked to even charge to 100%. At no point am I asked to even close to maybe even getting like 70. At every stop that I had said, you'll stop here for about, and because the route projects how long you're charging, you'll stop here for about 10 minutes. Get yourself to 45, 50%, and that's going to give you enough battery to get you from El Paso to the outskirts of Austin. Then you're going to stop here. Give yourself another 10-minute break. And at this 10-minute break, you will juice up, and that will bring you to your hotel that you need in Austin.
Mhm.
And I would purposely stay longer just for my own comfort, that I wanted to not hit range anxiety. But it would say, if you stay here for 5 minutes, you get your car to 55%, and then you start driving. By the time you get into the outskirts of Austin, your battery's projected to be at 13%, which is why you're going to stop again for another 5-10 minutes, and it will put you at 35, and that will give you more than enough to get you to your hotel and then another charging station afterwards. I never thought about it like that. When you have a gas car, you always want to, most of the time you want to fill up to the top, and then there's that. It's always 100%. You want to fill your whole tank. And that's how I was initially, that's how I thought I was treating my Tesla. And I realized that was the wrong way to do it, especially at the supercharging stations, where in the first 15 minutes, I get 50% of my battery back, and then it starts to slow down as we get closer to 100%. So it's the diminishing returns of what's happening. Once I hit 80%, I'm wasting time. It's like, oh my God, my time could be better used elsewhere, and it would still get me close to the next stop. The way they have every charging station set up, with the exception of that one where I saw the icon maintenance, I'm like, there's a little gear, I might not make it. It is designed to get even the worst ranged vehicles from A to B. So at first I would have wanted the biggest range because it's like, oh, I can go further, I can go longer. Sure, I might have to wait a little bit longer, but that's fine. I can go further, and I can do more things when I'm charged up or at a rest station. But realistically, even with the long range, at no point I had more than enough range at any point. Me not understanding what the icon meant on the display was just a learning experience for me. But getting there and charging up, at no point I always had more than enough battery. If I was cutting it close, that's user error. I was driving too fast, and I knew what I was doing at that point, where it starts like your projected, your range is boom, boom, boom. You're going to get this much battery the whole way through. It's like, if you keep driving like this, you need to stay below 75 miles per hour in order to make it to your destination at this range. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. So if there was ever an issue, it was because I was choosing to drive aggressively for whatever reason. It was more than enough with the range that I had. I'm happy I had the range that I have, though, because I was not driving based off of charging stations. I was driving based off of checkpoints, which just happened to have charging stations. Not every time. Atlanta had it. Austin had it. New Orleans didn't. And that was one where it's like, well, I need to get to New Orleans anyway. But my friend has, a wall thing outside under his carport, so I was able to charge up for over a day anyway. So knowing that, I drove a certain way. I behaved differently with the vehicle, knowing I was still going to have an outlet I could use. So it was no harm on me. It was more than enough of what I needed, and this was a great experience. I don't want to take any other car besides the Tesla cross country. It was perfect.
So
What's
for
the
making
projected
time,
range?
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, what's the projected range of your car again, Randy?
With the battery, with the range, 327, 326 or something like that.
Okay, mine's at 289.
Mine-
So
You're at right now at 100%. It puts me, I think, exactly at 300 or 301 or something like that.
I've seen many cars do that, though. I mean, Chris from Dirty Tesla just did a video on how bizarre the range numbers are. Like, they'll change depending on your percentage, the mileage. It'll be like at 100% it's 300, and then at 10% it'll say 25 or 45.
Yeah.
It won't be an equal ratio across, and it doesn't change that much based on your driving habits. So he was saying, like, I don't know how they're calculating it, but even if you go into the app and adjust the 80 to 100%, it'll change based on which direction you It's very like finicky right now. So that he was like, it's all basically just guessing. They're just like,
It is.
It's probably this much. I don't know.
I know I can get over 2 hours and 45 minutes on a 95%, 95% battery. I know I can get to almost just shy of 3 hours of consistent driving 75 miles per hour. Speed limits are posted to be like 70, and I go, if speed limit's 70, I was doing 75, 80 easy, and I was only driving slower because I was letting Brittany keep up with me. And even then, sometimes the winds were pushing
trying to
her.
find gas stations.
Come on, babe.
No, in Texas, the winds were pushing her, almost getting her off the road, and I was just driving like, cool as a cucumber. And she was like, "I hate
Matt
you right
Green
now." She's like,
cucumber.
I hate you. Yeah, I hate what you're doing. So I don't know what the range is anymore. I just know how long I can confidently, like, up 2 hours, I'll get down a single charge. Now I know.
Does the frequency of the stops comfortable? I guess that's another way of wording my question. Is like, I understand you don't go to 100% or even 90% at most superchargers. It's just to get you to the next one. But obviously, if you had a 400 or 500 mile range EV, you wouldn't have to stop as regularly. So I'm just curious if, when you're trying to get cross country, trying to make time, and you've got dates and stuff, did it feel like, I got to take all these stops, or did it feel like, I was going to stop anyway? This is a good time to take a break.
No, if I could have kept going, if it was infinite battery, there were sometimes I'd rather have kept going.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I want to say more than I didn't, but maybe it's a fair 50-50 because there were some times where I would stop and I was at more hotels than I was like shopping centers and stuff like that. And luckily, when I walk inside the hotel, again, like I did with Austin, I just walked in like I belonged there. And so I beeline to the bathroom and stretch my legs. I'm like, all right, Kika, let's go, let's take you outside. And so she needs to use the bathroom and stuff like that too. So if you had to take a natural rest stop for you to use the restroom, to let your dog out and stuff like that, stretch your legs, just take a moment to not let your eyes get rogue fatigued. It was probably more for Brittany to have a break than me because I was not eye fatigued like that at all. And
you got comfy seats.
And because I was not eye fatigued, that's why I felt like I could have kept going. I'd rather have kept going sometimes. But if, say, I didn't have the luxury of the autopilot, then it would feel appropriate at those stops for sure.
Interesting.
I feel like 2 hours. I feel like 2 hours, or maybe over 2 hours, 3 hours or so. I feel like that's a good amount of anybody to be on the road consistently to say, hey, maybe I should, let's take a break. I feel like that should be across the board. Exceptions to the rules. Obviously, I feel like when I would go from San Diego to LA, I'm like, I'm not stopping in Anaheim. I'm going straight to LA. So then I would go to LA. And so there are I make exceptions, but a good rule of thumb, 2 to 2.5 hours is a good time to just take a break anyway, so you don't get any type of fatigueness regardless. So
it is.
It felt appropriate. I just didn't experience it because of it, the software and stuff.
It's a paradox of convenience because, like, when we drove our car all the way down to your old place, I can say old place now, right? Basically, me and Louise were like, let's not stop at all. Let's just go straight shot because we were leaving after work, and we were like, okay, if we really, really rush this, we can get there before midnight. And we were like, okay, let's go. And obviously, I do all the driving, and by the time we were like 5-6 hours in, I was just like, can we stop? I was like, when we got to the gas station, I agree with what other creators had said, like Tech Forum. He was like, gas stations are so rushed and urgent because everybody has to do everything before the car fills up. It's like it's fast, but it doesn't feel like a break because you load the gas, you attach the pump to the car, and once it starts filling up, it's like, all right, go to the bathroom, get us that, drink the water. And I was filling up the car, and I was like trying to stretch as quickly as I could because I was so. But I didn't have autopilot. I didn't have
that is such
the
a
car
good
driving
point.
me
I've
around.
never even thought about that. Yeah, knowing that I had to take 15.
You got 15, 20 minutes, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take a walk, I'm going to get a drink. It
was a perfect break of me to be like, all right, how you doing? When we were at some point in Alabama, Brittany got out of her car and had herself a little picnic on the grass because the weather was perfect. It's nice, and we're charging it. And this one, I was like, I don't know if we're going to make it in time, so let's get it to 100% because I don't know about this icon thing. And then we got to the icon place, and I was like, oh, all right, let's juice this up because then this will get me all the way to Atlanta. So we had a little picnic almost. She's sitting on the grass. Kika's off her leash, running around, and it felt nice. And it was only like 35 minutes, and it just felt like, man, I could take a nap. I'm feeling relaxed. I never even thought about it like that. Yeah, I didn't feel rushed at any point. If anything,
we stopped in L.A., I think, and it was like nighttime.
Oh, everything's rushed there.
In L.A. at night, and it was in like a bad part of town. I was just like, okay, let's go. We were done in 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, I guess we got to get going. And then we jump in another 2.5 hours or so. So it's a paradox of like, because you have autopilot and you're in a Tesla, you feel so much more comfortable that you can keep going, but also because it needs to charge, the charges have to be there, and it's all about getting you to the next charger. It's not about getting to 100%, because that's you're right about the 100% thing. That's how people think with a gas car, and when they're unfamiliar with EVs, they try to replace the object of their previous habit best they can. Okay, instead of gas station, charge station. So range is low. That means I have to go to the charge station more. They don't think like charge from home or outlet available nearby, or they think fill up gas card to 100, to full as much as the tank can take, and they don't think with an EV it's like, well, you just charge till you get to the next one, and that's enough, and that's probably healthier for the battery as a whole. So there's all kinds of backwards thinking that takes some retooling and readjusting, because I've seen content creators or people say like, EVs can replace gas cars when they can charge in 5 minutes, or they can charge to 100% in 4 minutes, and they have range that's equal. I was like, I don't think it needs to do that. In Randy's situation, it would probably make the road trip experience more rushed if they could charge his car.
That's such a perfect point that you bring up. Is like I would hurry inside the hotel to use the bathroom real quick, and then I'm like, wait, no, I don't. I can sit down. I can sit on the porcelain throne, so to say, if I need to, and relax. Catch up. Just take a moment to myself. Get on the hotel Wi-Fi really quickly, and just relax. And AC, because some places were very humid. I'm like, have the AC blown. I'm like, man, I am relaxed. And also a reason why I think is a good stopping point just to do in under 3 hours, about 3 hours or so, and just take a break anyways. I do not realize I have to pee, and so it's like, oh my god, I have to go to the bathroom. And so that's roughly about the time I think the human body should like take a break and go use the restroom. So it's the Tesla knew my habits better than I knew my habits.
Yeah,
like, I am hungry. Hey,
that's why I'm not crazy about super long range EVs. I mean, it's nice obviously to have when it's there, but like, to me, I'm still fine or excited for lithium iron phosphate standard range vehicles, because it's like, I've done we need to drive 8 hours or 11 hours in a efficient, like, my parents are moving up to Washington and we're going to drive there, and I've done that drive a couple times over the years, and those days suck. I hate those days where it's all about like, let's get there as quick as possible, and I'm just going to stay behind the steering wheel until we get to empty, and then stop at a gas station, fill up to all the way full, and then do it again until it's on empty. And those are not fun. Like, yeah, you make good time, but it's not a pleasurable experience. I don't look forward to that. If I had an EV that kind of forced me to take a break every hour and a half, 2 hours, and take 20-30 minutes to charge up again, I'd be like, cool, I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think with the standard range, you would probably have to stop closer to every 2 hours. I would, if I was to.
That's what I was assuming.
I think maybe hour 40 or something like that.
Hour 40. Mm-hmm. So for me personally, that would be too much.
It'd be a little bit too frequent.
That might be.
Depends on how often you do those trips.
Right. And this was an outliner, obviously, doing a cross country's outliner, but
it's a nice experience though.
It's a very nice. I'm ready. Like, cool. Do we want to go to Ohio now? I mean, I got family. I got a family up in Ohio. Like, do you want to go see our family in Ohio?
Brittany's like, never again.
It'll be really interesting if you guys end up getting your tri-motor Cybertruck while you're out there, and then eventually do a cross-country road trip back to California. We can
be a nice
talk about that experience compared to the 3.
Hey, at this point with the whole gas thing, I think we're both excited to see Cybertruck, what that can do now.
I wanted to add. I did want to add on the road trip stuff. I think Tesla needs to roll out more places like Harris Ranch or Firebaugh in terms of either really big places with a whole bunch of superchargers with V3 stalls, and or these locations that also have like stores nearby. Like Harris Ranch is beautiful. My wife's been there. Like, you've got shops and hotels nearby, and it's all very nice and clean and beautiful, and kind of like what you're describing, Randy. There's a nice little field nearby that you can have lunch at, or there's a nice little table that you can sit at as well. Or roll out maybe a few more places like Kettleman City. I think those are perfect because you park in there, you've got a nice little solar cover above you that's charging. You're literally getting your charge from the sun from the roof above you. And then you could go into the little store nearby that is Tesla owned. You could get some coffee or something from a vending machine, go to the bathroom. Before the pandemic, you could lounge around in their little internet cafe area. Implementing more of those throughout the United States, I think, would be a great benefit for at least Tesla owners, or those that get to benefit from the supercharging network, or those surrounding the supercharging network. It allows more people to, I don't know, maybe enjoy nice little areas even if they don't have an electric car or they just don't have a Tesla.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I mean, it'd be a good, cool little incentive. It was like, ooh, this is like a little club for these Teslas, and I want to be a part of it. And it's like, come here, sit at the cool kids table. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something. a Tesla charge like on every corner next to every Starbucks or something.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's if it gets that frequent. I would love to see that and just have more of an experience. Make the road trip an experience and less of a destination type
Mhm.
of a thing.
Make it
Yeah.
almost like what Elon was kind of or wanting to do down in LA with what was it, people on roller skates, almost like a 60s
Yeah.
or was it 60s? Somewhere around that time frame
Yeah.
where roller skates were a pretty big deal, and it's almost like a Sonic, if you've ever been to a Sonic, where you kind of just park
Yep.
in a little parking spot and then either talk to someone who walks up to your car, or there's a little speaker that you just talk to, and then someone comes out with
I
your
want my
food.
slushy.
Yeah.
I want my chili cheese tots. Thank you.
Yeah. What I like about
So
the
classy.
supercharging, or at least how long it takes to charge up the car, yeah, it might be inconvenience with like your day. You can have to maybe plan around it. But it gives me time to just play video games on the Tesla or check out different things that
sure.
are in the Tesla. They've got all this great entertainment in this system. And I don't get enough time playing Cat Quest. I love that game. I think about halfway through it. It's a pretty fun
Whenever
game.
Tesla
You
doesn't
feel-
advertise, but if they did, a good slogan would be like, when you drive a car like ours, you won't want the road trip to end. You know, you want it to
Oh.
just you want it to take as long as possible, because then you could spend more time in the car.
Maybe that'll be the slogan for the RV or the van.
Yeah.
I try playing the games at these stops, but whenever I start feeling a little too confident, I just end up playing chess, and then I get my rear handed to me every time. Even on easy mode, I can't beat chess. I used to think I was good at chess. I suck.
Mm.
As everybody who plays chess.
Yeah.
Turns out I suck. But anywho, do we have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I'm happy that Randy made it safely to his
Me too.
destination.
I'm glad you
And
didn't
I'm
have any
glad-
flats.
Yeah.
Bought
That's
new
what I
tires.
was worried about.
I bought brand new tires. I didn't.
I'm
need
glad
to,
you
but
did.
I
I've just
didn't
heard
wanna
of
risk it.
people in Teslas just hitting a pothole and getting a flat, and they don't have a spare, so they got to get it towed and whatnot. So
Thank FSD for knowing what it needed to do, because I just did whatever. I didn't do it. I just supervised it. It did it. I don't know
Good.
what happened.
Glad
I just
you're
blinked
there.
and I was all of a sudden like, "Hey, I'm in Virginia."
glad,
fun.
glad there's a gas shortage. No, I'm not. But glad that glad there's not
Jeez.
a electricity shortage.
Yeah. For now.
If there was a grid failure, the gas pumps would be hit too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if the charge stations
definitely
are
have
down-
bigger problems on our hands than wondering if we're going to get to our destination in time.
For
there's
sure.
something very wrong happening. Yeah.
absolutely. Godspeed. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye bye.